Alright, we're going to do this video here. I guess there's an 81-year-old gentleman. Goes by a forum named TRG over there on the Rimfire Central Forum. This shooting stick here, I'll move that tape measure so you can get a better look at it. You see how long it is? Bottom of that V is right at 75 inches. I guess I could show it upright. See it there? Now I'm 5 feet 10 and a half, okay? I'm gonna prop it up here on this field pod, right? I put a foot on it. This is an inside section of a 2-piece pruning rod that had a manual saw on it made out of fiberglass. And that thing right there come off of that field pod. There's a bigger V and a smaller V. The bigger one is the one I used. Now, the small V would work. Only one problem. It fits snugger. But when you're in the woods using this stick, when you shoot the rifle, this thing right here, when it's wider, allows me more latitude. See that right there? So I had to have the stick more precisely positioned using the narrower V off of this field pod. Okay. See if I can get this camera back here. Now this stick here, now I'm holding it straight up right now, okay? I got good steep angle shooting. And when I have to adjust this stick, sometimes I shoot off the side here with that gun, okay? Either side, left or right. I tilted the stick forwards. I do that a lot to get my height for my shot, okay? Sometimes I kick the stick a little left, I kick it a little right, but generally not too much. Now, it's tricky shooting, but you get used to it. Okay, now I'm gonna lean this stick up against this sugar tree here. Okay, you see what I got there, boys? So instead of me having to set up against that tree, I can sit out here and my field of view is not cut. You know, squirrels, you don't know where they're gonna go. So I can sit right here, put that gun on top of that stick and go to work. And I can always move the stick up further on the tree if I need to and let it down a little lower, okay? And that works on trees, I don't know, 4 inches or bigger in diameter. Now smooth bark, 4 inches, it don't work as good on, but it does a real job. Okay? So this trigger stick gives you steadier shooting. Now, you know, you can be a grand offhand shot with a rifle. But let's face it, you know, those sharpshooters ain't no slouch when it comes to offhand shooting. I got a lot of years in the woods with rifles. No matter how good of a shot you are with a rifle offhanded, there is a limit to how long you can hold that gun up. You know, it'll wear you out. So what this stick does, let's say you get an old squirrel. You seen him sitting eating a hickory nut, and he quits eating, he goes out on the end of the limb out there, picks him another one. Well, you know, when he's picking that nut, he's a little tough to shoot. Now, sometimes I do it, but let's say you're going to wait for him to come back and sit down. You know, a squirrel, a lot of times, they'll come back to the same place on a tree, on a limb. Now, it don't happen all the time, but it'll happen quite often. Well, what you can do is you can keep that gun up using that stick, waiting on him. As soon as he sits down, pop goes the weasel, okay? Same goes hunting in cedar trees. You ever hunt squirrel in cedar trees, boys? That's a hard thing to do. Well, that stick right there is the real weapon. Because you got to wait for unobstructed shots in cedars, and squirrels are ultra wild in cedar trees, especially if it's not wet. It's like they can see you better in them things. I don't know what it is. So that's what that is, and I took the foot off of I forget what I took the foot off of and put on the end of that. And that fill pod thing right down, fit right down in that right there, and it's a nice tight fit. It won't even spin, okay? Now, what have I used this stick for besides shooting this squirrel gun off of it? Traversing steep hills, going across deep ravines. Now remember, since this stick is so long and you're going down a steep hill, you get to lead the stick with your feet, okay? Remember, the ground is dropping off at your foot, so yeah, this stick looks overly long, okay? But when you start getting around rocks and stuff, you get more leverage when you can get the stick lower. Maybe you can find a crevice in the rocks and put the stick down in it versus on top of the rock to get across them. I have took that V and held down the top strand of barbed wire, turning it upside down so I don't tear my pants instead of using my hands. I have used this to knock out large squirrels. I have used this to whoop a live squirrel that ain't quite dead. I have used this to toy with a rattler. Alright. I ain't toyed with no copperhead with it yet. Knock on wood. I've used this stick, I believe this will be the 4th season. I think I'm correct. Alright, it's not store-bought, and these sticks they make today for these tree pruners with these manual saws on them, I believe are made out of aluminum. Could you use one of those? Well, I've looked at some online, I believe you could, and the weight, this is a light stick. And it's very strong as long as you don't want to be chopping wood with it, like so. Very stout, very light. Not a lot of flex in it. And this is a leaves on squirrel hunter's dream. And this stick has some use in leaves off too, by the way. And I do use this stick in leaves off for nothing else but walking. I went a hunting, it ain't been too long ago, it was in this spring squirrel season, and I forgot that stick right there, boys. Let me tell you what, I felt naked, walking around on them hills. You older folks out there at the squirrel hunt, you need something like this. Now, there's one drawback to this stick. It fits inside of my side-by-side. It wouldn't fit into my inside of my old Toyota single cab. It does fit in the back of my new Toyota, but I have to put it in there at an angle to close the tailgate. So for ATV use, you don't know if you could ever get this on one of them or not. Okay, now I could, it would add weight, I could make one of these right here that's adjustable. I still have the outside part of this stick that this slides in. So a person, if you had the whole stick like I still have, you could splice it and make it where it would collapse. Drill you a hole for using it, but you would want to overlap the sections, I don't know, say you'd want to overlap them 18 inches anyway for strength. So you could have one you could collapse and make it shorter to haul on an ATV, okay, or even haul in your car. But since I can haul it everywhere with what I use, I leave it as is. So the other section I have is about equal width, but it's bigger in diameter. This goes inside of it. And I didn't use it because it would be heavier. It's probably a little stronger even. They don't sell these anymore, I don't think. But you might find one. You never know. So there you go. The sharpshooter squirrel pole, boys. And that's the real deal right there. Don't let nobody bullshit you. Squirrel going through that timber stops. He don't want to stop too long. Let me get that rifle on him. But see, I get it up even when I see the squirrel and he's moving. Anticipating him to stop. Now, remember, this is single pole on the ground here, okay? You start taking bipod and tripods into the woods with leaves on, you make a lot more noise positioning the legs of that thing. This is quieter. You get a lot of sticks and small bushes, so you're sitting here, you can move this, see how I'm moving this around? You can move this around. Oh, this thing's good too to hold briars back to get by, okay? Run it over the top of logs, obstructions, just to see if you hear anything rattle or hear anything move, anything suspicious. So it has a lot of uses. I have even run this in a hole in one or two trees where the squirrel that got shot and crawled in there. And I run this in there and it run him out. Now it has to be just the right tree, the right situation. Well, that's going to do it for the old sharpshooter squirrel pole. Hope you enjoyed.